So I guess we're on.
Yes.
Right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Flávia Figueiredo. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. And I'd like to thank Faculdade Cultura Inglesa for this opportunity that I can share this passion of mine, which is nonviolent communication. I'd like to thank very much Marilisa Shimazumi from Faculdade, who's here. Thank you very much, Marilisa, for your support and for being here.
Thank you, Flavia. It is really a privilege to have you giving this lecture to all of us, to our Faculdade participants, and to all the participants who have managed to join us today. I'm sure this is going to be a delightful presentation. We will learn a lot from all of us together. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilisa. Yes, I hope it's a great opportunity for everyone to know more about nonviolent communication. And it's not exactly a lecture. This is something that I would like to say. It's more of a talk. It's something more interactive. And I'd like to start by saying that this is not the usual setting where nonviolent communication happens, nonviolent communication workshops happen. Usually there is a circle so that everybody can see each other. We can look people in the eye. In the middle of the circle, there is usually a plant or flowers or some water, something that symbolizes life. That's the idea. So it's the circle of life, and all the participants are around, and we can see each other, and we are all equal there. So I'd like to start, although it's a very, very different setting, I really would like to bring some of the atmosphere of our nonviolent communication workshop. And so I'd like to start with practice that we always do, we always start, which is the check-in. It's check-in just like we have a check-in when we are arriving at a hotel, for example. But checking in the nonviolent communication setting means talking about how we are feeling at the moment, how we are arriving. It is to help us really land here and be present. And also, when we listen to the other participants telling us about their inner world and how they're feeling at the moment and how they are coming, listening to them helps us also understand their inner world. And their inner world, when people express what's going inside them, that can be really, really very different from what we can see, from what we see, the appearance, right? That's just the tip of the iceberg. So my invitation now, and this is also a practice we do at the beginning of our meetings, is to have this grounding so that we arrive, and after that we'll do our check-in. So I'd like to invite you all to, sit up straight. It's like concentrating, really. And give 3, if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. If not, that's okay. Just make yourself very, very comfortable and to be here with us. So let's arrive, let's get started into this nonviolent communication atmosphere. So the very first thing is really, let's have 3 conscious breaths so that we can be fully, fully present. So as you inhale, we are inhaling some air and life. And as you exhale, you can leave whatever it is that you were thinking about and worries out. And then we just Breathe in again, and as we breathe out, we can focus at the moment, how we're feeling at the moment, and try to, be here and leave all the other worries and problems and things we need to do outside. And so now that we're here, I'll check in. I'll tell you a little bit about my inner world at the moment, and then I'll invite Marilisa to do the same right after that, if you will, Marilisa. It's just an invitation. So, yeah. So, at the moment, I'm feeling there's this immense joy to be here sharing what I've learned about nonviolent communication, which is, as I said before, a passion of mine. It's something that really made a difference in my life and has been changing my life. I keep on practicing it. So it's really this joy. There's also some nervousness. It's my first live ever. And it's something I didn't think I would do in my life, but here I am. So there's this nervousness and anxiety at the background. And there is also at the background this feeling of sadness with everything that's happening in the world at the moment. Deaths and the crisis and all the suffering that is not present here with me, but I can feel it at the background, and from time to time it comes back. So there is this sadness. But at the moment, really, what comes what's more vivid is this joy of being here and this hope that there are people interested in nonviolent communication. So this is my inner world at the moment. This is how I'm feeling. Would you like to share something about your inner world, Marilisa?
Absolutely, Flavia. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here with you in this extremely interesting, to say the least, experience. I'm checking in now with you all. I'm feeling obviously extremely privileged to be sharing this environment with you, Flavia, someone who is very dear to me, and it's been quite a long time since we last met. So I was really actually extremely happy to know that we would be together today. And I can feel an atmosphere of trust. We have also people around us, surrounding us, and I'm sure there is a lot of positive energy amongst everyone. So I'm really, truly happy and feeling really, I think the word is privileged. This is a quality time we have to be together in those times, right? In these very apprehensive times, taking into account everything that's happening around the globe. So thank you very much, Flavia, and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilisa. It's also really special to have you here supporting me today. Thank you. And what I'd like to ask you now, the participants, those of you who are with us, can you share in the chat a couple of feelings? How are you at the moment? What is your inner world like at the moment? Can you share a few feelings or considerations? Let's see.
I say here that Edson, I don't know whether you can see, Flavia, Edson is actually sharing some thoughts here. According to him, it's very important for us to have non-violent communication with everyone here. And we have some good old friends together joining us. Can you see it? I'm not so sure if you can visualize. We have Albina, Lizika.
Lizika, that's great. There's somebody here I can read. Feeling good on this sunny Saturday morning. Great.
That's
High
wonderful.
Expectations. Great. Okay. So this is what we usually do in when we start. It's usually a circle, as I said before. There is this pot plant or flowers in the middle of the circle, and we get started. And Marcio is saying something. He's curious, anxious, and looking forward to it. Great. Then Ana Paula, a bit uneasy. Okay, that's great. Feelings are feelings, right? What else did Ana Paula say, Marilisa?
She's a bit, feeling a bit uneasy because it's the second term, right? We are starting our groups. We have new classes, new students, but I think above all, also to be glad to be here with us today. And Barbara says that your approach, seems to be very much similar to mindfulness, Flavia. I think this is going to be very interesting. You will have a lot to say to us about it.
Yes, definitely, Barbara. In fact, I have very recently started practicing mindfulness. And it's precisely because it helps a lot to have this conscious communication. And yes, it does have a lot to do with that. So thank you for sharing. Fabio is feeling peaceful and thankful. So great. Now that we have an idea, I hope this reflection and this inner this look into your inner world has helped you land here so that we can now start. We know we have, ideally in a group, we would listen to everyone, right? And then we move on so that everybody's together. So I'd like to now talk a little bit about my intentions today. It's really to trigger some reflection. It's for those of you who are teachers, I think that the great majority of people here with us are English teachers or students who want to become English teachers. And this is the idea, noticing, right? So it's just what I'm about to share with you. It's just really the fundamentals, the beginning, the tip of the iceberg of what I have learned about NVC, nonviolent communication, over the past 3 years, right? I'm still learning, and it's lifelong learning, really. And it's not something theoretical, it is something that is practical. So yeah, that's it. That's it. It's something practical. We need to keep on practicing. So let me share with you a little bit about how I got to know nonviolent communication and how everything started. I think the very first time, I don't know exactly which happened first, but there were two noticing moments when I first came across this idea, this concept. One of them was a documentary I watched on TV, and this was a documentary about social change and how Dominic Barter, who's a prominent name in nonviolent communication in Brazil, he is an Englishman who married a carioca. And they live in Rio, and he was impressed by the differences in the social differences, the striking social differences in Rio. And he started working with the communities, right? And so there he mentioned nonviolent communication, and there he mentioned Marshall Rosenberg, who's the American psychologist who structured this approach. And so I just thought, that's interesting. I like that. I'm interested. So I took a mental note, and also, I took notes of his name, Dominic Barter. But then nothing much. After some time, I was doing my mentoring work with Cultura Inglesa, and I went to the Bauru branch of Cultura Inglesa for meetings with teachers and lesson observation. And there, in the teachers' room, teachers were talking about Marshall's book. They had been reading the book together, and Natalia is asking what's the name of the documentary. I can't remember. It was, but I can check and I'll try to find. It was Global News some time ago, but I can't remember the name of the documentary. But I believe, Natalia, if you Google Dominic Barter, GNT, nonviolent communication, you're bound to find it. I'll leave my email at the end, so if you want, you can write to me and maybe we can try to find that together, if that's really important for you. But anyway, I was in Bauru and the teachers were reading the book. I had heard of that from Dominic Barter, and so I had a look at the book. I decided to buy the book. That was back in 1916. So I bought the book. I had a look. This is the book, by the way, the Brazilian edition, right? So I bought the book and I started reading, but it didn't really, catch my attention at the beginning. And then in 2017, July, I think, I decided to take a course. It was an introductory course, a 20-hour introductory course here in Ribeirão Preto with my master, Lúcia Nabão, who is with me. I take part in a study group every Monday evening since 1917. So it's a study and practice group of nonviolent communication. So that's it. That's where I really felt passionate about it, and I could see that I could it made a difference in my life, and that I could make a difference in people's lives, touching people's lives. So Marilisa,
yes,
please interrupt me or ask questions if I'm talking too much, or if there are comments and questions.
We have just a contribution here from Erica. She says she has that book by Dominic Barter. So I think we would appreciate it if Erica, if you could. Okay. I think that's the book. Okay.
But this one is not by Dominic Barter. This one is Marshall Rosenberg's book.
But okay.
I
have that book. I think she was referring to the book. Sorry, the book.
Yes.
On the internet as well, according to Yolanda. Thank you. And there are several people also posting. Flavia, just let you know, people are really thankful for the opportunity to be here and to be sharing this moment with us all. So
thank you. I'm very thankful too. Okay, so this is the book. There's a curiosity I'd like to share with you. So this is the edition in Portuguese, right? The Brazilian edition, and I also have the original. I'm not sure you can read. Maybe we could spot the difference. Have a look at the title. I'm not sure you can read that, but there's a huge difference there that makes a lot of difference to me. Did you spot that? Here we have nonviolent communication, a language of life. And this is really what it is about. Nonviolent communication, according to Marshall, is the language of life. So nonviolent communication is not a theory. It's not a theoretical construct. It is a language of life. It's a different language. So this is why we need interaction and we need practice groups to be able to practice that pretty much in the same way we learn a new language. So for us to learn English, for example, we need to practice. We need to speak English. We need to be exposed to other people speaking English, right? Exposure is really important, so we can understand and learn and to have examples of how to use that. And it's the same thing with nonviolent communication. The difficult thing, you know, the challenge really is that not many people speak the language of life. Most people speak a language which is a language of power, as opposed to the language of life. That's what Marshall says, you know, power over other people, exerting power over people, asking, requiring, or demanding people to do as they like. So it's really about the language we are used. We are in this paradigm at the moment, and people speak this language, you know. Who's more powerful wins, and who's not powerful loses. So the shift of paradigm that is proposed by Marshall Rosenberg in his book is that we switch from this paradigm of win-lose to another paradigm, which is win-win, which is the language of life. So it's this paradigm where instead of having people, powerful people exerting power over other people, it's to share its power with. So there is this opposition of the situation we have now in the world, which is the language we speak, which is power over, as opposed to power with. And power with means inclusion. It means listening to everyone. Everyone matters. So if you think about the check-in procedure, right? This is a ritual really at the beginning. It means that it is to convey that everyone is being heard. Everyone is important. Everybody's contribution is important. Yeah, Carlos Eduardo wrote there, collaborative power. Exactly. That's the heart of it. Carlos, thank you for the comment. Nara, yes, it is related to emotions. Emotions really are the driving force of our creativity, right? In this power over paradigm we live in the society we live in at the moment, you know, we have become very, very mental. So there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of, which is not bad, mind you. But the thing is, being so much in the mind and rationalizing and being logic all the time disconnects us from our emotions. And this disconnection can make us, disconnected, really. And if we're not connected to our inner feelings, to who we are, then what are we? Mm-hmm. And then we are very easily, we can be exerted power over. So how do we rescue our power? Sorry, Marilisa, you were going to ask something or to say something?
Fernando has just asked us here, how is it different to put nonviolent communication into practice in an online environment, just like this one that we have actually learned nowadays, right, to communicate with others? Is it that different, Flavia, or much more difficult?
That's a very good question. It's being a challenge to me right now, Fernando, because I can't see you, you know. So I thank Marilisa once again for being here, because I'm really looking at Marilisa. But I think I would dare to, maybe at the end I could say something about that. But I would say that it's a language, really, and it's something that starts with us. It works on 3 levels, really. That's what Marshall said. It works on 3 levels. It starts with connecting to ourselves, and then this self-connection, which mindfulness, as Barbara mentioned earlier on, mindfulness really helps the self-connection. So once you have the self-connection, you can then, it's easier for you to connect with others, right? Connecting with others. And on a third level, as Marshall said, working with systems, working in nets. So the systems we belong to in society or schools, companies, right? Those are the systems. So as Carlos Eduardo put it some time ago, the collaborative power of that. Yeah. So it all starts with connecting to our feelings, to our light, to our life, really, to integrate what we learn to what we feel. So would you like to say something, Marilisa? Any other comments?
I don't want to keep interrupting you, Flavia, but I just want
fine.
Okay.
I'll ask.
Okay. Fernanda has just mentioned a keyword here. Vulnerability is the gateway to true connection. I fear being vulnerable. So this is a personal matter of mine. And I think when we are vulnerable, truly vulnerable, we are putting ourselves in the hands of the other. And this is it, I agree, true connection. But for that to happen, we have to fully trust the other, right, Flavia? So
definitely, Marilisa, definitely. And in this paradigm we live in which other people sometimes, want to exert their power over us. Of course, we don't want to be vulnerable with those people, right? Because as you said, we need to be trusted. But surely vulnerability and getting in contact with our feelings, either comfortable or uncomfortable feelings, is really the gateway to true connection. As Brené Brown writes about it, there are very nice and enlightening talks by her available from TED Talks. And this is exactly right. Once you get the vulnerability, once you're okay with yourself, you can find somebody who you trust to empathize with you and to be there with you. And this is like a support net that we build, and then we start having this system that flows rather than stops. And then is where creativity comes in, and collaboration, and so on. So I'm getting a bit sidetracked. So I'll just go back because to talk a little bit about Marshall, because he was the one who structured this approach. It's very common for us to see nowadays some people talking about this, and mind you, remember I showed you a language of life in the original version, in the English version. Exactly. In Portuguese, they say here, a comunicação não violenta, técnicas para aprimorar relacionamentos pessoais e profissionais. They are not techniques, right? So this is something I'd like to say. Really, it's a language. So Marshall put together and he systematized an approach. So this systematization, in order to help us understand what it is and to help us start using that. They are not really techniques, right? Because the aim is to get us started. Just like in an English lesson, for example, when we give models to learners so that they can, start using the language. It's the same thing. So there are models, there are guidelines, but they are not techniques by no means, because it has to do with intention, it has to do with your purpose, it has to do with what you want to be produced by your interaction, right? And it's a philosophy of life, really, for me. And as Marshall put it, I just love it. He says that using nonviolent communication can help us make life more wonderful. Exactly like that. making life more wonderful. So as you can see, what's beyond, what's, you know, there beneath is that life is already wonderful. It is wonderful, but how can we make it more wonderful? And when he says life is wonderful, I think he's talking about the mystery, this energy. You know, we are here, we are breathing, we move, we feel. There's beauty, there's nature. You know, I think we can feel that. For me, it's really about nature. When I'm outside, I love plants and animals and the water running, the beach. So I think this is what he means when he says that life's wonderful. So how can we make life more wonderful? And that's through our relationships. So.
And there is a matter as well, Flavia, that it's an approach to life, isn't it? It's not a set of rules or techniques, as you've mentioned. So in order to make life more wonderful to us, I think lots of people have said that it's a matter of empathy, but it's not an easy journey. Ludmila said to connect, for us to connect with ourselves first. It is quite a daunting challenge.
It is, and because if we look at our everyday exchanges, right? There's the how are you? I'm fine. Tudo bem? Tudo bem. So there's usually this very binary thing of bem or not bem. The thing is, there is a wide variety of feelings, you know, feelings that connect us with life, feelings of joy, feelings of contentment, feelings of hope, of gratitude, and there are other feelings who are not, which are not so comfortable and may disconnect us a little bit. Well, in fact, I'm sorry, those uncomfortable feelings do not disconnect us. They do not. What disconnects us from life is our fear of being vulnerable, of living, of feeling those uncomfortable feelings, right? We have sort of been trained that to avoid fear, for example. We've been trained to, okay, I don't even want to think about it, you know? So if we don't even want to think about it, mind you, feeling the fear, being with the doubt, it's a very uncertain moment right now. Right?
And on that, I think we could say a bit more about that conflict of ours, transforming conflict rather than solving, perhaps. I think this duality of always seeking for solutions instead of paying attention more into the process. I think this has to do with what Fernando has asked us. How can we actually reconnect ourselves during pandemics? Would you like to talk a bit more about this solution mode and process transformation mode, please?
Thank you very much, Fernando, and thank you very much, Maria-Lisa, for that. So the solution mode is the paradigm we live in, right? We're always looking for quick fixes, quick solutions. So it's the focus on what we have to do and how we're going to solve problems. Whereas, and the thing is, because of that, it's not something negative really, but it doesn't give much room for creativity in the sense that we tend to repeat solutions from the past. And we tend to, because we want to solve things quickly, we tend to do what has been done before. And because we want to do things so quickly, we don't listen to all involved. So there is exclusion. And the most powerful is the one who decides, and things are done that way. So really, if we look at nonviolent communication, it may slow down the process a bit, but listening to all involved, taking into account everybody's contributions may lead to something that is more creative, more collaborative, and makes people feel more powerful and more connected. So there was a question about connecting in the pandemic. Really, we need to feel what's present. We need to look at feelings as a control panel, really. You know, there is a light there. It's telling us something. Our feelings tell us something. The thing is, we usually disconnect from the feelings and we move to mental and thinking and thoughts. And this is why we sometimes get so overwhelmed with lots of things to do. We need to be more. So how can we find some time to be ourselves, to check in, really, to look at our inner world and to be a little bit, to stand that, I don't know, the doubt. It's difficult, and it needs training and it needs support. So this is why we usually have practice groups for NVC, because we need other people's support. It's very difficult to do that on our own, you know, standing with those uncomfortable feelings. But mind you, once you look at that and you are with that uncomfortable feeling, there's this opening, and it makes room for other feelings. It makes room for creativity. It makes room for trusting yourself and others. There's something I didn't say, Marilisa, though, about Marshall that I think is important. So Marshall is an American psychologist who was a student of Carl Rogers. So nonviolent communication stems from three main things, really. Mm-hmm. The first area is psychology, humanistic psychology. So Carl Rogers was responsible for putting together or idealizing the person-centered approach. So when you look at the individual as a whole, and everything, the therapy and everything surrounds that person's inner world. And Marshall Rosenberg, he was American, he lived in Detroit, he comes from a Jewish background, and he lived in Detroit in the 60s, where there were lots of conflicts, social conflict, racial conflicts. And Marshall was really amazed at how differently people reacted to those conflicts. There were people who were extremely compassionate and understanding, whereas other people were very violent. So he started to look into that. So he was a student of Carl Rogers. So that's one of the things that gave birth to Marshall's nonviolent communication approach. Another thing was this observing this compassionate nature. Marshall truly believed that we human beings are compassionate beings, that there is compassion, that our natural state is a compassive one. That's what he believed in, that we are not compassionate when we are disconnected from our feelings. So he also drank from the teachings of Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and the whole peaceful resistance movement, really. And finally, there's something that I like to mention. He also mentions Paulo Freire. This is really interesting in an educational context, right? So the ideas of autonomy, of empowering people and meeting people where they are. That's the idea of also nonviolent communication, meeting you where you are and starting from there. And the third, so it's psychology, peaceful resistance, And the third one is really the theories of motivation. So when we think about the basic human needs, right? If you know what I'm talking about, there is Maslow studies, the Maslow pyramid, where you have the needs, basic human needs. So this is something that is shared. Every human being, every living human being in the world shares needs. We have the same needs wherever we are. So this is our shared humanity, and this what he says is that we all have feelings and we all have the needs. So needs such as harmony, respect, nutrition, love, affection. Those are needs that every human being in the world has, no matter where we live. We may, however, find different strategies to meet those needs, depending on where we live, right? So, for example, if I ask you now, money, is money a need?
I guess it helps.
Well, in the society we live in,
Yeah,
right?
But, yeah.
In the society, we need money. However, money is not a need, because it's not something that every living human being around the world needs. We need things that money can buy. So food, for example, food is a need. Now, there may be tribes around the globe where people meet the need for food without using money. So money is a strategy to meet a need. So this is very important. And what Marshall said, what he found out, is that our disagreements usually are at the level of strategy. But if we go deeper in our connection with other people, if we listen to each other, and if we truly connect and we manage to go deeper, we'll be able to find some common ground, which is our need, our shared humanity, really. Our needs are the same. And from then on, we can connect and start a conversation and work out strategies that will include everyone. So that's the idea.
Thank you for this catching up, Flavia. This was really, really enlightening. So going back to these three pillars, right? Psychology, peaceful resistance, and our basic human needs. Over here, I think Narelle, sorry if I'm pronouncing correctly, Narelle, she mentioned our being reactive all the time and not being able actually to act upon. And Juliana, on that matter, she also she mentioned Simon Sinek. I hope that's the way we pronounce his surname.
Simon Sinek, yeah.
Sinek, that we should leave the others to speak. We should take a step back and actually listen to what people are saying to us, are telling us. So I think you will be mentioning, I think you have already, that it's time for us to stop and listen to the other, right? What people are actually trying to say to us, instead of being just reactive and, according to Guilherme, acting like robots. Would you care to expand on that?
Yes, thank you, Marilisa. Thank you, Guilherme. What are the other names?
Narelle and Juliana.
Narelle and Juliana, thank you for that. Yes, it's exactly about that. So in the old paradigm, I mean, old because I'm moving towards, I feel I'm moving towards this new paradigm proposed by by Marshall. But in this in the status quo, in the paradigm we are at the moment, we tend to repeat. So there is this reductionism, there is not much reflection, and we tend to repeat and act like robots then. So what he proposes really is to become more conscious, to really listen, and not only to others, but really listen to our emotions, listen to our body. Our body carries intelligence that comes from our experiences, and we simply don't. I mean, most of us simply don't. We have disconnected from our bodies, and we are totally mental. So what he proposes is that listening to us, and once we self-connect, we'll be able, that's what he believes in. Once we self-connect and we are able to reconnect with our nature, with ourselves, we'll be able to listen to us. That's it. To listen to us and to be more empathetic to others. Exactly. Can I just say another thing that I feel is really important about when Marshall gave this name, right, nonviolent communication, and he, before he died in 2015, not very long ago, and before he died, he said to have thought about this not being the best name, because when you look at non-violent or non-violent, it looks like a dichotomy, like violence and non-violence. And this is precisely what he's trying to steer away from, right? Nowadays, we live in this good, bad, normal, abnormal, and what he says is not that. People are unique, we are unique, and what somebody may consider normal can be different for somebody else. It's simply different. And what he says, this comes from a word in Sanskrit, ahimsa. Ahimsa. It's a term in Sanskrit, and this comes from peaceful resistance. And the word ahimsa is translated into non-violence. But this is a reduction of the meaning. The actual meaning of ahimsa is the potential that emerges when the desire to hurt the other is transcended. I'll repeat that. Ahimsa means the potential that emerges, the potential of life that emerges, the potential of life that emerges when the desire to hurt the other is transcended. Because violence is a desire to hurt the others. So if we transcend this desire to hurt the others, we become more compassive. And so what he said is that this is why he gave the name, because it comes from ahimsa, right, Gandhi. But in fact, he says he would like maybe to think of a different name, and he suggested compassive communication. So that's just curiosity, but it helps us understand the whole idea, right? And it has to do with consciousness. As somebody said, like we are acting like robots. So yes, what he says is no, let's look at that, connect, be mindful, be conscious. And somebody else said, step back. Yeah. And have a look at the whole picture, because sometimes when we are into the conflict, it's difficult for us to see the big picture. And by the way, let me share another interesting thing about it. The symbol of nonviolent communication is the giraffe. Did you know that, Marilisa?
No.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's the giraffe, and for many reasons, but the main two reasons is because the giraffe has this very tall neck, so that the giraffe is able to see things from a distance.
From above.
From above, and from a distance, really, you know, without getting involved. So it's detached and therefore maybe conscious and able to see all involved and not only one part, right? And another thing is that the giraffe, because it's a very, very big animal, it has the biggest heart in the animal kingdom. So that's it, lots of feelings and emotions there. Okay, so Marilisa has already mentioned that. So I've talked a little bit about what a nonviolent communication is. And any questions, Marilisa, comments you'd like to share before I move on?
Several comments, but I think you are touching upon them. So if you would like to carry on, and then I'll include a few of our participants' thoughts here.
All right. So I have already talked about Marshall Rosenberg, where it comes from, what it is really. As I said, it is a language. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about what it's not, what nonviolent communication is not. So as Marilisa already put it, it's not a set of rules. It's not a set of techniques. It is... it's not a way of solving conflict. It's a way maybe of transforming conflict. It's not mechanical repetition, action, reaction. And it's not, this is really important. Lots of people get this wrong. Some people think that nonviolent communication is about being nice, sharing and caring and loving and being nice. And it's not, by no means. Nonviolent communication is about being truth to yourself, being true to yourself, you know, speaking your truth. So once you connect and you know how you feel, what you want, you are able to be authentic. So it is about really, it is about having the courage to be genuine and authentic. And of course, this is bound to generate conflict, right? We are trained.
Yes. This is what the questions that given here by Brenda. How to have nonviolent communication, Flavia, then when we are really angry and cross to someone. So you said it's not actually being nice all the time, right? But being true to ourselves and perhaps being true to others, but it's hard. And this is what Brenda has just asked you or asked us here.
Yeah, there's something curious. I hadn't planned to touch upon that, but since Brenda put it forward, I think she says that when we are angry and cross at another person, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, what Marshall says is that our anger has nothing to do with the other person. What the other person does is the stimulus. In fact, what makes us angry is that there are needs of ours, basic needs of ours, that aren't being met. And we are delegating the fulfillment of that need, meeting that need to somebody else. And one of the basic things of nonviolent communication is self-responsibility. We are responsible for taking care of our needs and finding ways to take care of our needs. And so this is really common. We just blame other people for something they did. Oh, they are doing that, and this is really annoying. The thing is, I need to connect to my feeling. I'm feeling annoyed because I need something. What is my need, my basic human need that is not being met? Maybe that person is interfering something, but then the person is not the source of everything. And it's difficult to see, and this is why we need so much study and practice. And there are excellent examples of that of what I'm saying here, right? But I don't want to go too much into that because I haven't prepared examples and there are other things I'd like to say. But I'd like to know, is this making sense so far? Because we are approaching the end of the talk. Is this making sense? Any other comments, Marilisa?
Absolutely. And I think being true to ourselves, as Brenda also mentioned here, has to do with what Fernando has just posted here on the chat, that we have to learn how to set clear boundaries, perhaps, in our process of being true to ourselves and being true to others. And this is not, according to Fernando, I would say, Fernando, João Pedro, I mean, setting clear boundaries. I'm sure we are going to cause conflicts, but conflict is not the same as violence, isn't it, according to João Pedro?
Exactly. That's exactly that. You know, and I think we have been educated, we have been trained to avoid conflict at any cost. So this is why, oh, be a good girl, don't do this, don't ask for that, you're looking for trouble. And we have been since very early age, we've been trained to satisfy the others, you know, to respect. And in fact, it's not to respect, it's to obey others, right? And so it's difficult for us to connect and to be true to ourselves. And then once we start speaking our voice, speaking up and using our voice, there may be conflict, but conflict is not a bad thing. The bad thing, as you put it, Marilisa, the negative thing really is the way we deal with conflict, either by avoiding it or by being violent. So I guess what nonviolence communication teaches us is that if we are connected and we are able to be authentic, and set clear boundaries, as someone said, we may have conflicts, but we'll be able to deal with the conflicts, right? To transform conflicts. This is about the transformative and generative power of nonviolent communication. Transforming things, making things different in a way that everyone's included, everyone is listening. It's not about being authentic and demanding that my needs are met, but negotiating and listening to others so that we can deal with the conflicts, really transform conflicts. Somebody wrote that it has to do with emotional intelligence. Definitely. Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence helps us a lot to understand mainly the feelings part here. So definitely. Now, I'd like to go to move on and talk a little bit about the connection dance. May I?
Sure. Yes. Connection dance. Okay.
Exactly. This is not Marshall Rosenberg's. Marshall talks about the connection, and I like to call it dance because I like dancing. I like music very much. This brings life in me. And what he says, and this is what he says, right? That connection can be symbolized by this symbol. Do you know the symbol, Marilisa?
Infinitive. The infinite.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Endless.
Endless, infinite. Okay, infinitum. So this is the dance, you know, it goes like that. So according to Marshall, connection happens when there are two elements there. One element is, as we were saying, authentic expression. So somebody expresses their truth, is authentic about how they feel, what they want, what they need. So authentic expression. And on the other hand, there's somebody there to listen, to be there with the person. Somebody who's doing this, as we say, empathic listening or active listening, right? And this listening, I have talked a little bit about the authentic expression, right? But I haven't talked a lot about empathic listening. So being Brené Brown has a lovely video. I don't think we'll have time to see that, but if you Google that later on, if you're interested, I do invite you to look at that. It's a video by Brené Brown. It's called Empathy, I think. Empathy, Brené Brown. You'll see that video. So she talks a lot about there. She illustrates what empathy really is, which lots of people say it's putting yourselves in the shoes of another person, which is quite difficult, right? Because you were not the other person. So Brené changes that a little bit, and she says that empathy is being with the person, sort of living your whatever you are with at the moment, what you're bringing with you, just forgetting a little bit about that, leaving that aside for a moment, and being this presence for that person. So it's really full presence. This is empathy. So being there for the person. It's not giving advice. It's not talking about yourself. You know, that sort of thing when somebody says, oh, I don't know, something happened to me. I say, oh, same happened to me once. And then you start talking about yourself. So you shift. No, all the attention, all the presence, all the energy at that moment is with that person. You're listening. Yeah. So that's empathy. And also listening with empathy means to listen beyond words. So what Marshall says is that when we are actually listening, for us to dance, the connection dance, right? So there is authentic expression, and the listening is listening beyond the word. So what Marshall says is that for us to listen with empathy, we need to try and listen to the feelings that are behind the words. We need to listen to try and identify the needs that are behind that. So if you think of a baby, right? The baby has basically, when we think about self-expression or authentic expression of the baby has basically two things. Either the baby's fine and smiling and giggly and blah, blah, I don't know, or the baby's crying. So what mothers do is, most mothers do, right, is really to identify what's behind that crying. So there is this exercise. What's the baby feeling? Is the baby hungry? So do they need food, or is it pain? Do they need maybe a hot water bottle on the belly? What is it that they need? Is it sleep? Do they need sleep? Are they cold? So this is what we do with babies. And we need to see that when people are behaving badly, when people are angry, when people are violent, it's a cry for help. Really. We may feel cross at that. It may be very enraging and uncomfortable, but it simply means they are not well. There's something wrong. Their needs are not being met, and the last thing they need is really punishment. And this is what we do. If somebody is behaving badly, right, we judge and we punish. And this is what Marshall says. This connects us. So how can we connect on a personal level or professionally? By listening empathetically, and really trying to listen beyond words, the feelings and the needs. And here's a tip, right? So there are no techniques, but maybe a tip if you want to start trying. Check your understanding. If you're really conscious and you're listening to somebody, maybe somebody who's complaining or somebody who's saying something that can truly connect, is checking. So using things like, oh, okay, instead of simply responding, I agree, I don't agree. No, just say, okay, so I can listen. You were really mad at the moment. You were feeling sad. Is that right? And so you check. You can probe into that. So there are some techniques for you to do that. Some techniques for you to connect. Things like paraphrasing, and reflecting what the person said, sort of repeating what the person said. So these are some tips. And this, if you are aware of that and you do that, at the beginning, it may sound mechanic, but you get used to that. And the person feels you are there with them because you're not talking about yourself. You are not asking for further information. So for example, somebody says, oh God, I'm really overwhelmed. I just had an accident. What we usually do is, oh, really? Are you okay? Is everything all right? Did it hurt? And we start asking for more information. Where was it? Is everything all right? And that doesn't really connect. For us to connect, we could be, oh, I can see. Tell me more. So I can see you're shaking. I can see you're shaking. Are you afraid? Are you in pain? And then if we are there together with a person, that's support. And this can connect. And from this connection, we can feel the life in the person and in ourselves. This is our compassionate nature, right?
That's a great, heads up here, checking our understanding, right, Flavia, right, and being with the person, because Edson has mentioned, how can we go about doing that in such a divisive world nowadays, where power is everything, and I wouldn't say conflict, but actually violent words are being thrown at each other. So with active listening and authentic expression, and being with the other, being with the person, might be a way to strike a balance and perhaps start having actually an exchange of quality communication. Yes.
Definitely, Marilisa, but mind you, it's not easy because sometimes people don't want to open up, right? And sometimes you try, and it doesn't work. And it's fine. It's fine. Sometimes it won't work. So mind you, nonviolent communication is not a solution to conflicts. By no means. It's transforming. So maybe you won't, it's not. Some people say, use nonviolent communication and you get something. No. When you start, it's not focused on solution. It's focused on connecting with people and finding alternative ways. Sometimes you won't be able to connect. And that's it, because connection, the dance takes two, there are two sides there. And sometimes we won't be able to establish that dialogue. But the thing is, if you're aware of that, you can empathize with yourself. There's self-empathy. And now, just talking a little bit about techniques, there are things like, can you see that?
Yeah.
This is a card game. It's Baralho da Empatia. You can use this to self-empathize. There is another game called Grok by Colibri, which is also a game that we use. It's not a game. It's a set of cards with feelings and needs. And so when we look at those, we can connect to ourselves and better understand others.
Flavia, just whenever you can, I think Claudicea has asked you if you could perhaps suggest a few names of study groups later on, give them reference to people who are also doing and practicing nonviolent communication. She would appreciate knowing and your suggesting some groups.
I'll take this opportunity to mention my masters. Of course, thank you, Marshall, right? But here in Brazil, the people who I share and I practice, nonviolent communication with. I can give you some names. One name is Lúcia Nabão from Ribeirão Preto. She's also part of a collective, a group that is called Tecendo Diálogos. If you Google it, Tecendo Diálogos, there are 3 ladies there, Lúcia Nabão, Cristiane Meira, and Rosane. They have courses and workshops. They are lovely, and their site has lots of links to loads of materials and things. And also my masters from São Paulo, Sandra Caselato and Yuri Haas from Sinergia Comunicativa. If you Google Sinergia Comunicativa, this will also take you to their site. They have profiles on Facebook and Instagram, Tecendo Diálogos as well. And there are loads of materials, lives, and lots of things. And also, if you Google, there is plenty of material by Marshall. We can see Marshall's talks and Marshall's workshops on Google. You'll be able to find those. I hope that helps.
Oh, yes, definitely. So it has to do with a lot of emotional literacy, perhaps. You've mentioned learning how to deal with our emotions.
Yes, somebody said emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, nowadays it's becoming more and more common for schools to deal with emotional literacy and emotional intelligence and social emotional skills for children, right? But when we were young, and our parents and our grandparents, that wasn't the case. So definitely, one key step of starting nonviolent communication is becoming emotionally literate. The thing is, we feel the emotions, but very often we don't know how to name them. We don't know how to stand there with them. So that's it, allowing ourselves to feel and to know what it is about. And we need company for that. It's simply too much for us to do it on our own. So this is why we need support nets. And nonviolent communication practice groups are support nets. There is a very common practice that we have, which is called an empathy bud. So when you have an empathy bud, it's somebody you can call whenever you are living a conflict and you're feeling overwhelmed by your emotions. We call that person, or we set up some time to have this listening, empathic listening, so we can, ground ourselves and process and really feel and open up some space so we can move on. Well, I think our time is running out, Marilise.
Right.
So let me, what if I read the poem?
That would be wonderful, I would say. That would set the tone, and perhaps people could talk about it. Hang on a minute. Shall I?
Just a minute. Let me just check.
Okay.
No, there's just one thing I'd like to say before the poem. So about the dance, right? I talked about the authentic expression and the empathic listening, but about the authentic expression, in the book, the whole approach of nonviolent communication has been structured around differentiations. There are key differentiations that Marshall has worked with. So in this book, he works on 4 of them, the basic ones we need to start off. And they are, the first one is observation and judgments. So we tend to judge things like, oh, look at him, he's lazy. That's judgment. If we observe, we are going to see he woke up late. That's quite different from he's lazy. Or he didn't hand in his homework. That's what we observe. That's an observation. But he's lazy is judgment, right? Yeah. That's a label. So okay, judgment has helped us evolve as a species, but now do we need to judge that much? No. So this is one of the differences. And Marshall says, let's try to observe. Another one is feelings, right? Feelings as opposed to thoughts. Thoughts are products of our mind, and they are highly influenced by our judgment. So what Marshall says is go back to basics, go back to our energy, to our inner compassionate nature. Feelings, connect to your feelings. So feelings and thoughts. The third one is needs and strategies. So needs are the things that are shared, is our common ground, shared by every human being, whereas strategies are selected or dependent on the point in time we are at, the culture we come from, personal choices. So that's it, right? Strategies can change, but the needs is what connects us, really. We all share the same needs. And the fourth differentiation he makes that's really important to start this dance of connection is requests as opposed to demands. So once we sorry, I just saw a comment by Chita Ponte.
Yeah.
Chita, I couldn't, sorry. I just got lost. That's why I'm not reading the comments. But Chita, thanks for coming. Where was I? Okay, requests and demands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very often, if we think about power over, there is this demand, do as I say. Right, parents do that with children a lot. So here's red lights for parents. If you really want to raise children who are empowered, who are compassionate, listen to them. Because when you say, do as I say, do as I say, just obey me, that's a demand that does not really take into consideration their views. So what Marshall says is requests. And we don't know how to do that, mind you. And then he teaches here what is a real request. How can we request? How can we ask for what we really need? And how we can make that the choice of words and things. So there's a lot to that. So maybe on that note of demands and
requests.
Yeah. There's a message there, Marilisa. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Have a look. I think Larissa posted something. So on that note of demands and requests and connection, I chose the title of this talk. I was inspired by a poem that is in Marshall Rosenberg's book, which is called Words Are Windows, or Their Walls. I chose Pontes, right, bridges, because nonviolent communication can help us fortify, it can help us repair bridges, it can help us make those bridges better and build bridges where there aren't, if we feel that's necessary. But it's not only about that, it's also about sometimes abandoning that bridge. Maybe there is a relationship that's not good to us. Maybe there's abuse, maybe there's oppression. And by being authentic and by being empowered in connection with what I feel, I may choose to abandon that bridge. So it's not all about sharing and caring and being nice. It is about living your truth. And sometimes living your truth implies abandoning some bridges, making conscious choices, right? But this thing about the bridges is something he says, but I got a lot of inspiration from the poem, and I'd like to read the poem to you now.
Okay, so here we go. Got a minute. Can you all see it? Yes, Flavia?
Okay, so there we go. Words are windows or they're walls. This is a poem by Ruth Berbermeyer. It's in Marshall's book. I feel so sentenced by your words. I feel so judged and sent away. Before I go, I got to know. Is that what you mean to say? Before I rise to my defense, before I speak in hurt or fear, before I build that wall of words, tell me, did I really hear? Words are windows or they're walls. They sentence us or set us free. When I speak and when I hear, let the love light shine through me. There are things I need to say, things that mean so much to me. If my words don't make me clear, will you help me to be free? If I seem to put you down, if you felt I didn't care, try to listen through my words to the feelings that we share.
Very powerful words.
It is indeed. I feel very touched when I listen to that.
Absolutely.
So it's really not stopping at the words, but going beyond that. And I guess it's time to close, isn't it, Marilisa?
Yes, but Flavia, if we could just stop now and think how wonderful it would be if the whole world were a big support net, wouldn't it? So, and I have seen that your words this morning have already inspired people to act upon it. I saw Samira's initiative. She was asking if people would like to start a group, a practice study group.
Please
them,
include me.
yes.
Include me. I'd love to take part.
To share my materials, ideas, and everybody to find at least your empathy buddies. That would be extremely rich. And perhaps more people would start taking up this initiative. Flavia, that was great. Yes?
Can I have just a final thing? So just a final thought. Thank you very much for bearing with us for 1 hour and a half almost. I hope it was inspiring. And I'd like to, if possible, there is also a ritual we do at the end, which is the checkout. So there is the check-in, how you arrived and how you're leaving, right? So I'd like to hear from you if you could type one word, how you're feeling now that we've heard about Marshall's approach. Any words? What's alive in you now? Lighter, thank you, Clinea. Maybe I'll share a word. I'm feeling João Pedro inspired. Thank you, João Pedro. I'm feeling thankful and Katja says happiness. I'm feeling joy and hope. Okay, connected. Thank you very much for your contributions. And my invitation, I'd like to end with a sentence by Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, which is, let us become the change we seek in the world. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
And Marilisa, there's a surprise, right?
I think I have, yes. So there is.
It's a surprise to me as well. I don't know.
Yes, temos uma surpresa ao final da live. Let me just read it here.
I just would like to share my email maybe before that, Marilisa, so that those of you who want to contact me, please, I would love to get some.
Would you go ahead?
Feedback. Yeah, some feedback or to get to know about the groups, initiatives, and I can also contribute with materials if you want. Oh, so todos que estão.
This is our surprise, Flávia.
Wow, okay. Yeah, including me, I hope so.
Obviously.
Então, so the surprise is that everyone who's attending the live has a 10% discount in the design thinking course by the offered by the Faculdade Cultura Inglesa. It's a course I've been looking forward to taking. I truly recommend. I've talked to other people who have taken it and they loved it. So great news.
So on that, I would really, if you are interested in taking up our course, the Design Thinking at the Faculdade, please send us an email at atendimento@facultyinglesa.com.br. Everything is on our site, please. That would be a great, let's say, initiative for us to meet again, right? So
thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I hope you have enjoyed. I'm available for that, and I'd like to thank again my masters, Yuri, Sandra, and Lucia Nabão. Thank you very, very much, Marilisa, for the company. I wouldn't have been able to be here without you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flávia.
Eugênia, Marcelo, Faculdade, for this opportunity and for allowing me to talk about this passion, which is so important in the world nowadays. It's not an easy task, but let's dream on. I know I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all participants for sharing this experience with us. Thank you. Bye-bye.